This is an interesting one. It's short, but it's still interesting. So a lot of you guys... Let me back up here for a second. So, back up, and I haven't even started yet. Back in the 1980s, there was this voodoo priestess in Congo, I think. A place in Africa. I'm still stuck on that Ebola episode. There was a voodoo priestess in Africa. She saw that there was a civil war going on in a place. I don't remember the name of it, but that detail is not important. And she decided to exploit the divisions in this country that I don't remember. So she raised an army, but she didn't have any weapons. So she gave her army sticks, stones, and voodoo dolls. Spoiler alert, they got stomped. But her nephew, also a practicing voodoo, whatever the term is. I know this episode's off to a great start. Also, well, he's a warlord, basically. He's a voodoo practitioner and a warlord. Let's say that. You know him. Everybody knows him. His name is Kony. So, Kony started the Lord's Resistance Army. It was a huge contingent of it was child soldiers that he kidnapped from villages, made the kids kill their parents so they'd have nowhere to go, so they had to stay in the army. He's a brutal man. He controlled them through fear and violence and voodoo. He's a practitioner of the voodoo religion. I don't know if it's called voodoo over there, but similar practices. I don't know. Similar. Okay, listen, guys. I'm just reading articles on this stuff. Anyways, so if someone's like, no, it's not actually called voodoo, it's called this, I apologize. But anyways, so he uses dark magic, we'll say. He uses dark magic and fear and violence and all this stuff to control his army. Now, the reason why we know about Kony was back in 2012, there was that big social movement, Kony2012. And Jason Russell had a group called Invisible Children. And his goal was to bring about the end of Kony and to free those child soldiers. Admirable goal. And so they started this huge social movement, and like people were changing their profile picture. It was called slacktivism because people were doing like very little things, but they felt really good about it because they were part of this Kony movement. The video, Invisible Children, I think it was called. The video that Invisible Children produced was one of the most watched videos of that year. It was this huge phenomenon. And it did bring a bunch of attention to Kony. And people who had never heard of the civil strife, never heard of the child soldiers, never heard of any of that, were now aware of it. The eyes of the world were on Kony. Now, how do you strike at a target? Kony didn't have drones. He couldn't really send over a 12-year-old assassin with an AK-47. So how do you strike at an opponent 2,000 miles away? Magic, of course. So, I mean, whether or not voodoo works, I think depends on your own personal beliefs. I'm personally not scared of voodoo. I don't think it would work. I know voodoo wouldn't work on me. I see it as something that is more something that you buy into the superstitions for it to work. But I could be wrong. I've never had anyone cast a voodoo spell on me. Maybe they did. Maybe that's why it's snowing. But what's interesting is you had Jason Russell, and Kony2012 is blowing up, and everyone's looking at this guy. Everyone's looking for him, and Jason Russell starts to have weird thoughts, we should say. Now, he is under a lot of pressure because he went from being a nobody to being world famous like that. Like, it is very, very hard for a average person to become famous. It's a lot of pressure. It's a super weird attack on the human psyche. I think it's interesting because athletes start off, they're usually famous at their high school, and then they go to college, and now they're famous nationally to a certain degree, but definitely in their state. And then if they play pro ball, now they're nationally famous, but they have that slow build-up of the fame. Whereas singers and actors and activists and stuff like that, politicians can become famous overnight. And it can really, really mess with you. All of a sudden you feel self-important, stuff like that. But anyways, so Jason Russell is this normal guy who now is world famous. And he's feeling the pressure of it. He's starting to have these weird thoughts. He needs to take a break. Him and his family go on vacation. They go to see the movie The Lorax, the movie about Danny DeVito trying to get people to recycle. And that's a bad description of it. But anyways, which would have made it a better movie. He's at The Lorax and he's watching it, and he said he felt that the movie The Lorax was talking to him. And then he got this nugget in his head. Not literally, but he got this thought in his head. A kernel, again, not literally, in his head. That if he didn't get to New York within 12 hours, Kony would win. And becoming obsessed with this thought, he needs to get to New York in 12 hours. And then the next thing that happened was the famous footage of Jason Russell nude in public, walking down the sidewalk, freaking out. People said that he was masturbating in public. That actually wasn't true. South Park made a big joke about that. That was kind of the meme. He wasn't doing that, but he was like doing jumping jacks and calisthenics and walking back and forth and muttering to himself and things like that. He went mad. He had a nervous breakdown. And the conspiracy theory is that wasn't just because of the fame. That wasn't just because of the pressure. That was because of a successful voodoo spell that Kony actually cast on Jason Russell. It's an interesting theory, and there's not much to back it up. Really, the best evidence I found was from TMZ, where they're interviewing someone who knew Kony. I think it was a child soldier or someone who had worked in that region. He's like, oh yeah, no, that was totally a voodoo spell. Absolutely. That's exactly what it looks like. A voodoo spell got cast on him. That's what it looks like when you're cursed. So, I mean, in the realm that we live in the realm that Dead Rabbit Radio exists in, all the crazy stuff we talk about that's not the craziest thing I've ever heard of. It is interesting because after that, Jason Russell became a meme. Kony pretty much disappeared from the spotlight. Invisible Children's still around. It's still trying to free those soldiers, but definitely crippled the movement. Definitely cast a long shadow on the Kony2012, because now you really can't discuss Kony2012 without discussing Jason Russell's breakdown. He's doing better now. He said that it took him about a week or two to get back and to find himself again. There's actually a great video I'm putting in my YouTube links called I think it's called The Story of Kony2012. This internet historian did, and it's a great video. It's a great overview, and it has the interviews from Jason Russell where he talks about that breakdown. Was he cursed by Kony? Was the spell successful? Did Kony use ancient magic to take out an enemy who was using modern technology to stop him? Who knows? But it's definitely an interesting theory, and I wanted to share it with you guys. That was a clip from our daily podcast, Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime news. If you want to hear the full episode that this clip came from, check the link below. Please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell, too. That does some magical stuff. Thanks, guys.